Wolf back. What is going on? It's your boy, the Wolf of Roto Street. RotoStreetJournal.com. We breed and feed you fantasy wolves. Here with your 2025 NFL Draft recap, joining the new Ball Talk show with my man Tanner, CJay. They're hitting all the dynasty goods for you guys over there. But I had to jump in because the draft is underway. 2025 NFL Draft has officially wrapped up. And to recap it, we're going to dive into the biggest winners, losers that we saw. We're not going to be able to hit every player, of course, in here, but we each have at least one running back, one wide receiver. We'll hit a couple tight ends, couple quarterbacks, and obvious ones there as well to just go through the draft and think about who rose the most in value, both for redraft purposes, but of course also that dynasty lens as well. And we have a lot of names to hit. We have a time crunch here, so I'm just going to dive in and start it off here with Harvey. I think he is not only the biggest RB winner, I think he is the single biggest riser in this entire NFL draft. I think it's the biggest storyline is him landing with the Denver Broncos. I labeled that my number one value hole. We know Sean Payton has been a mastermind at getting his running backs not just usage, but passing game usage. It has been a fantasy gold mine. 12 times in 17 years of calling plays, his running backs as a team have ranked top 2 in total fantasy scoring. Top 2, 12 times. That is a ridiculous hit rate right there. In all 17 of those years, Payton has never had an offense finish outside the top 5 in receiving expected points to backs. And now he even himself mentioned that he wasn't, quote, Harvey featured in the passing game, but we really liked what the skills are. We saw there. We didn't want to lose him. We felt like moving back would set the tone for the day, give us flexibility, do what we want. And Harvey was kind of our, quote, pet cat throughout the process. You got to love a good pet cat running back there. We loved his running style. He's dynamic, really good vision, really good instincts, really good contact, but balance, highly explosive. I just continued to rave all in all. The GM said this guy had the best vision in the class, and it shows over that production. Over the last 2 years, 38 touchdowns plus 5 more than the next closest Power 5 runner. Also became the first UCF running back to clear 1,100 yards from scrimmage in over a decade. Did it back-to-back years, 1,654 in 2023, 1,844 in 2024. Just an absolute efficiency monster, bell cow back, going into, again, one of the most gold mine situations you can possibly ask for a running back. So I'm going to have him. I started messing around with my redraft rankings. Those will be up tomorrow morning. I'll probably go through a redraft ranking show in the morning for anybody that wants to tune in. He's looking like a high-end running back, too, to me, with the true low-end running back one upside, probably round 3-4 range for me in my rankings. What do you guys think? Am I crazy to rank him this high? Am I overvaluing the landing spot? I feel like it's a great fit of talent, opportunity. I love it. What do you guys think?
Harvey?
Yeah.
I have some initial thoughts. So I'm a big Audric Estime guy. I'm not going to lie. So this, doesn't really – I don't really like this too much, honestly. And so me and CJay were looking at it. Yes, Harvey was very productive. He grades well in a lot of metrics, but he's 24. So he is very old. He is a very old running back. We just saw the Giants take Tyrone Tracy Jr. last year. He had a fine year. Now he's on his way to being replaced by Cam Scatterbo. Just another old running back being replaced by another old running back. It's just an over and over cycle. So Harvey might be good from the get-go because he's 3 years older than Estime right now. A lot of people boosted Harvey in their rankings quite a bit after the draft, just with the second, going to the Broncos. That's a great landing spot. I think he will get some work, but Javonte Williams, they signed him too. If Estime, it just feels like it's just going to be another RBBC, and it's just like, I don't know. I personally wouldn't use a first or an early second round or mid round on Harvey.
See, if Estime was going to do anything, so what Javonte is gone. He's over with the Cowboys now, but he's not talented at all, in my opinion. At this point, unfortunately, I loved him when he came out. He's really got that knee injury, sapped him from any type of explosiveness. And yet Estime couldn't overtake him last year. Why is Estime going to play over the guy that they made sure to get round 2, the 5th running back off the boards? That's some pretty hefty draft capital to sink in somebody compared to a guy in Estime who I actually loved Estime coming out last year. So this is, I had him. He was my highest exposed guy in the early best ball tournaments. I thought he was going to be a beast. He disappointed me. I saw nothing that tells me that this guy's going to do anything of note. And then when you make a round 2 investment at running back, you take RJ Harvey over a Caleb Johnson, who I thought I like Caleb Johnson more coming into this. But clearly this team had a different view of him. They thought, again, he was the best pure runner, the best vision of the class. And if it is a committee, 12 times for multiple backs in 17 seasons, the running back 2 has gone over 200 points. The second string running back has gone over 200 points 2 times rather, and then 130 points 9 times in those 17 seasons. So there have been. We even saw that year where like Kamara and Mark Ingram were both top 5 guys because Sean Page is that good at scheming the value. So if this does somehow end up a committee with bum Estime, who it's not going to be, but if it is, I think there's still plenty to go around. So I do not see it as a committee, and even if it was a committee, I think Sean Payton has his guy. That's why they invested the capital in it. And if he had any faith in Estime, they wouldn't be putting this type of investment in the position. But, hey, we could debate that one for sure.
True. Maybe I have a little bit of bias just out of liking Estime so much coming out of college last year. But I knew drafting him last year in last year's rookie draft that I'm not going to get a lot of production in his first year. He was the youngest probably in the class. Last year. So I just maybe I'm stuck on Estime a little bit. But RJ Harvey is good, man. He can play football. So I think, in the first year, he'll probably be pretty good, but these old running backs are just not something that I'm comfortable in investing in because they have short careers. They usually just fall off very quickly. They're very replaceable. So
I should too preface this too, Tanner, with you definitely take a far more of a dynasty lens, and I totally respect. I get that, and that's kind of what your show is. I am coming from like more of the best ball redraft. That's more my special sauce. So I'm thinking of this 1 year lens. I totally get the idea of like what is his shelf life if we're thinking in dynasty. Maybe we shouldn't overvalue him too much there. I get that, and we should be considering both lenses here. So maybe we're both right in that sense because old running backs do have that worse track record for sure. I totally get that shelf life. That's why, my receiver pick when we get there, he's a little bit older too. I don't mind that like right out of the box readiness because I mostly play that single year churn format besides that RSJ dynasty league we all do together. So,
right.
So I get it too. We're probably thinking about this from 2 different lenses in a way as well. So we'll keep combining that as we go through the show. I think though, even just year 1, he's going to hit the ground running. Even if it is a shorter shelf life, I think you got 4 or 5 years of great production coming from RJ Harvey. And you think Estime is a bigger thorn than I. CJay, you want to wrap this one up? Are you worried about Estime at all? You like RJ Harvey? What are your thoughts?
No,
We'll move on over to your guy too.
I was gonna say that Tanner's more of a dynasty guy than redraft, especially compared to you as well. But no, I mean Harvey is a 3-down back. He had nearly, I think, 600 carries over his old time, his long old career, and catch the ball in the backfield. Had 61 receptions. He can do it all. I mean, Estime is a big back, big bruiser, short yardage, goal line, maybe steal some touchdowns. But no, I'm fine with RJ Harvey. I have him up to RB6 in Dynasty, and then probably, I don't know, maybe 15-ish. I haven't looked at redraft really, but 15-ish or so in redraft.
6th amongst rookies?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that though. I like RB6 out of the rookies. That's I'd say you could even enter that top 5 combo based on some of these landing spots though. We'll get into some of those too.
Honestly,
but one guy what's that?
I was going to say RB6 is not horrible. I'm just kind of like looking at the board a little bit. Like most of the running backs got awful landing spots.
Yeah.
Most true. Everyone in the class got awful landing spots, to be honest. Like this is not what we thought it was going to be.
It never is.
It never is.
Never goes as perfectly smooth as expected. I wouldn't say, though, this guy, CJay's winner here, Omarion Hampton, got too bad of a landing spot, given that Greg Roman, Jim Harbaugh pounded out style offense. I have some stats on that, but CJay, why don't you take it away with Hampton? Why do you consider him the biggest running back winner of this class?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly like what you said with Greg Roman, Harbaugh, just no nonsense. That's what Hampton does. Like 3,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 2 seasons as a starter. He really does it all. He's going to be going against Najee, who we know what Najee is at this point. He's a plotter. He'll go over. The guy will probably go over 1,000 yards. That's what the guy does every single year. But yeah, it's just he's going to bring juice to that offense. There's a reason why they drafted him where they drafted him, and he's just going to have the vision, the burst, the finishing ability, and he's not a like a Trevion Henderson as a receiver or as a pass blocker, which could hurt him on third down a little bit. But he's more than capable as a receiver. I think PFF grade is around like 70 or so, and he could start off a little bit slow, like some rookies do, where they are going to be behind the veteran for a little bit, maybe a few weeks. Harbaugh will lean on Najee a little bit, but overall it's going to be Hampton's backfield. Right now he's my RB2 and my 102 in Dynasty in rookie draft.
I love it. Yep, that's exactly where I would have him as well. I don't have Najee as a concern at all. He got a 1-year deal. It can get up to $9.5 million. It's right around $4 million guaranteed. So it was like it's a nothing deal. That makes me think, especially when you go and use your first round pick, that they have any interest in using Najee. If and when this guy fell to him, they just jumped right on the opportunity. Top 10 in rush attempts every single year in 11 years for Greg Roman. Top 10 in rush yards every single year, but one of those 11 years, top 10 in rush touchdowns in all of those, or 7 to 10 rather, and top 5 in 5 of those 10. So they love pounding the rock. I love Hampton too. Freak athlete, all the skills that you mentioned, and a great offense for him to thrive. Anything to add there on Hampton, or do you want to move to your guy, Tanner?
I like the Hampton landing spot a lot. So, I mean, maybe first year it might not be what we think, because like you said, Najee probably might go for 1,000 yards. Who knows? They just signed him. Who knows how that split's going to go? But we know Hampton's a great prospect. First round draft capital is exciting. I had Caleb over him, so obviously I thought Caleb would go round 2. He didn't. So he gets a perfect fit with the Steelers. Did not go as early as I thought he'd go. But this also kind of relates to Najee. So Najee leaves Pittsburgh, goes to Los Angeles, and there's a ton of opportunity to be had in Pittsburgh. And I think Caleb embodies exactly what a Pittsburgh Steeler is. He's going from white, yellow, and black to white, yellow, and black. But so for Steelers running backs specifically, I feel like they're just kind of like bruisers. And that is just exactly what Caleb Johnson is. He faced stacked boxes on over 50% of his career runs in college, and not a single other running back in this class was over 39%. And he had not a single fumble. So Tomlin's going to love him. He's exactly what Tomlin embodies in his Steelers culture. And he's going to be a lot better than Najee, if I'm being honest. Watching Najee the last few years just kind of slow down has been just like a broken clock. It's just every time Najee takes the field, he's just so slow when he gets the ball. Like, I don't know what it is. Every year he's gotten slower. But that's a great fit for the Chargers. But Caleb Johnson, I'm huge on for the Steelers. I think that's a great fit. I had him as high as my RB2. I would still probably put him RB2A to B range with Hampton. I think he can have as good of a career as Hampton. I don't really worry about draft capital too much. There's a lot of things that I like about Hampton, and there's a lot of things that I like about Caleb. There are very different running backs, if I'm being honest. But a lot of people think that Caleb's main factor is he is not much of a pass catcher, but that's not even true. He had an 82nd percentile college target share. So he might eat into that receptions workload that Warren gets, Jaylen Warren. And I think Warren's on a franchise tag. Is that right? or tender.
Yeah,
tender.
franchise tender, second round tender. Yep.
Yeah. So, I like Warren, but we know he's not a workhorse. Caleb Johnson is a workhorse. He's 6'1", 225 pounds. So I think Caleb Johnson is going to start off slow. Warren's going to get most of the work from the get-go, but I think eventually, even halfway through the season, I think we'll see Caleb eventually getting that 3-down role.
I 100% agree. 261 carries up for grabs, too, from last year. Third most in the league. 309 running back opportunities. Also third most. So wide open pie for this guy. And it is a huge mouth to feed. And I totally agree with you that he just feels like a Steeler. The colors already perfectly matched, like you mentioned, but just the big body. It's such a classic Tomlin fit. And for many years, I know the last couple of years, Najee's been such a slug that they've had to resort to this committee. But ultimately, for so many years, whether it was Lev Bell, even Willie Parker, 320 touch seasons were a norm for the Tomlin. Even Najee as a rookie had like 370 touches, I believe it was. And so Tomlin does love to feed one guy. He's got the quotes on the record about how it makes you harder to defend if you can just lean on one big body. And to me, that seems exactly like Caleb Johnson. So I am with you for sure. We have one sleeper winner we're going to get to you guys as well. But as you're out there, any thumbs, likes, really help us get out to more people, shares, retweets, all that good stuff. So thanks again so much. Get all those questions in. I see our guy Mo is in the comments. I see Bulldog. Great to see you. Some classics coming out of the woodwork. Chase MG as well. Shadow CJay is a vibe. It is a scary sight over there. CJay, the prison CJay.
I know. I need to flip the light to the front. That's the problem.
We got to get you a ring light over there. And don't worry, Mo. Those Trey Harris numbers are coming. The old man lover over here is plenty of Trey Harris love coming shortly.
Yeah,
my highest owned player early.
Let's get Tyler Warren in the Wildcat.
Yeah, we'll talk about him too as well. But the last running back winner we wanted to touch upon is Jadon Blue. CJay wrote about this guy in his sleeper article just a week ago. You actually crushed that. CJ Shedeur over there. Like Pat Bryant was in there. Just killing the draft as a whole there. There's a few more big hits. But Jadon Blue, probably the sneaky biggest hit, in my opinion, landing with the Cowboys. We just talked about the Steelers vacating a ton of volume. Nobody has more available volume, though, than the Dallas Cowboys. 317 carries, 382 total opportunities. That's 92% of their shares up for grabs. And sure, they also drafted Phil Maffa, a big body. I get it. He's probably going to eat in this form a little bit of a thunder lightning. Yes, they signed Javonte Williams. I think he's toast at this point in his career. And meanwhile, Jadon Blue is bringing a ton to the table. 4.25 pro day. I know it's pro day, so I don't want to overreact to it. I get that you got to add a little bit there. But even still, potentially the fact that this guy ran at the combine a 4.38, already blazing fast, but maybe even sub 4.3 40, just absolutely electric. But that is far from the only thing he brings to the table. Number one in yards after contact per attempt in this class. Almost 72% of his yards came, actually 73% of his rush yards were after contact, which was also number one in this class. 3.4 yards per carry when hit at what he's hit at or behind the line of scrimmage. So he was churning whenever he got hit. Still making a ton of good things happen. 25% target rate was number two in this class. He was in the slot on 16% of routes. That was number one in this class. A lot of interesting metrics. This guy, yes, he mostly split his time, but I'm telling you, he could shoulder a good chunk of that available 380 touches and bring true electricity when you're only competing with a seventh-round pick and a toast Javonte Williams. I think Blue is walking into the most dynamite possible landing spot. In fact, I kind of want to compare this one to my loser at the same time and kill two birds with one stone. I was convinced DJ Giddens was going to go there. They had the KC offensive coordinator is now their line coach over there, the KC State guy, or Kansas State rather, not KC. And he ultimately, though, I thought that dot connection was going to be perfect. They had the running back queued up. DJ Giddens was still there, a true workhorse back. And ultimately, they pass on Giddens. They go with Jadon Blue, despite that familiarity, despite the fact that Giddens could have been probably a better workhorse for them. And Giddens continued his free fall from there. I don't understand the Giddens. I know he was one of your guys too, CJay. 9.78 RAS score, 48th out of 2,100 running backs since 1987. Truly 99th percentile athleticism for DJ Giddens. And sure, Blue is up there too. But to me, the fact that the Cowboys went with Blue, passed on Giddens, who, again, they had people in the building that worked with Giddens last year, tells me, one, how much they love Blue, and two, is maybe we were all a little bit too hyped on Giddens, who ends up landing, and why he's partly a loser, not just because he got passed by the Cowboys, but he lands with the Colts and just a clear-cut handcuff. Now, if something happens to Jonathan Taylor, we know that this run game has been very productive under Shane Steichen, so I do think DJ Giddens could be a very viable handcuff, still very draft worthy. But in terms of landing in so many of these valuable openings, and again, the Cowboys, the one I thought he was going to go to, doesn't quite happen. So, CJay, anything you want to add? I know Blue was one of your guys. I know Giddens was also one of your guys. It seems like one's going to end up vaulting himself up the ranks, whereas the other is going to be falling. Do you feel similarly, or anything different in terms of your opinion on these two?
Yeah, I mean, Blue is electric, though. He's such a great pass catcher. Texas used him on a ton of wheel routes. He cooked Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. There was just times all through
2 touchdowns, right?
Yeah, he's an unbelievable pass catcher. They can line him up in the slot, out of the backfield, just crazy pass catcher. But then Giddens, it was such a sad day. Me and Tanner were texting back and forth. Is this the time Kansas City's going to do it? They're right in the backyard. So we had two teams, one that plays down the street, and then the connection in Dallas too.
Yeah, Devin Neal, right? Like, what the hell?
Dude, I don't know. The Chiefs had a good draft, but why would we not draft Devin Neal, especially when he falls to round 6?
Yeah.
I had a round 3 at least, or 4 grade on him.
Yeah.
Unreal. Yeah, the Kansas and Kansas State boys, it was a sad day. But yeah, Giddens, it's a tough landing spot, of course. I mean, he does have RB1 upside if he ever gets in the field. It's up to Taylor's health, and then he'll be locked in there for the rest of his career. So
I'll touch on Blue. Oh, sorry, go ahead. You got more, CJay?
No, you're good. No, go.
I was gonna say Jane Blue is kind of him and Brashard Smith, I'd say, are very similar in terms of them being the 2 main pass catching backs, I'd say, in this class. I also liked LaQuint Allen a lot. I know CJay did a little bit too. He's more of a pure runner though. But he actually might even be a better receiver than Jaden Blue, to be quite honest. But this pick by the Cowboys kind of makes me think that they're going to just feed CeeDee Lamb and just throw the ball, because I don't see them running a lot with Jaden Blue. He's not really a huge, he's not a workhorse. He's a pass catching back, right? And they just got rid of Rico Dowdle. So what do they got? They got Deuce Vaughn. He's, very small, probably the smallest running back in the entire league. Jaden Blue, that's pretty much it. So I don't think they're going to be doing a lot of rushing, but I think Jaden Blue could have, his most production as a pass catcher easily. We know he's a good pass catcher, so he'll definitely be running routes most likely. As for Giddens, like Nick said, he's just athletic. He's a freak, but he gets a horrible landing spot. Not necessarily horrible. The Colts have a great O-line, but Taylor is just the RB1 there, without a doubt. So unless they move off of him or he gets injured, which does happen, has happened before many times, Giddens, he's probably an elite handcuff. And then another RB loser, is this? I think this is CJay's, but Sampson obviously is another loser as he lands with the Browns. And they took Quinshon Judkins in the 2nd round. I actually like Judkins over Trevion. I did pre-draft. I do post-draft. Henderson lands with the Patriots. So he's with Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson. There's a little bit of competition there. The role is wide open in Cleveland for Judkins. Chubb is done. He's not good anymore. All the 600-pound squat videos you're seeing in the offseason, stop buying the hype. Nick Chubb, he's a GOAT. We respect him. We love him, but he's never coming back. He's not the same. The torch has been passed. It's going to be Judkins. Henderson is solid. CJ likes him a lot. I think he can probably be an RB1 in the future, but this year, probably not, just because Gibson takes on that pass catching role a little bit, and Ramondre is like their true rusher. And they do like Ramondre. Although they benched him last year, didn't they, CJay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they benched Ramondre last year, I think, for Gibson for like 1 or 2 games.
They said they were going to, but Mayo forgot because he's just a complete moron. And was like, oh, yeah, we're going to bench him.
He had like 6 fumbles in 10 games, and Mayo was like, yeah, we're gonna bench him this week. And then, right before the game started, and Mike Reese was like, wait, Stevenson's starting? He's like, oh, yeah.
Idiots. Gibson
isn't bad either. Like, Gibson's good. Gibson's efficient on his touches. So, but so for Dylan Sampson, I think it just sucks for him in general. Like, he's one of the younger running backs in this class. I liked him, but I didn't have him like anywhere crazy, like top 5 or top 7 or anything. I think I had him just short of top 10, or no, just inside my top 10. Sorry. But now I'd definitely move him outside with Judkins there. It's just like, Judkins is better, in my opinion. So,
yeah, that's how I feel. When Quinshon Judkins, he's a workhorse. Like, I know at Ohio State he didn't have to be, but at Ole Miss he was averaging like, I want to say like 270-ish carries per year as a true freshman, true sophomore in the SEC. He's a 3-down back. He carries the workload. He doesn't get hurt. I don't think he missed a game in 3 years. And they're similar backs as well. Like, you think Sampson, because he's 5'8", that he's this great pass catcher. He's not. I think he averaged around like 10 receiving yards per game in college. So like, he's not even going to bring that like Henderson role, like which Judkins did flourish with last year. It's just they're kind of the similar backs, and Judkins is just the better back of the two.
Judkins also tested extremely well.
Judkins is a freak. I think he was even better than Giddens, who I talked about was like 41st out of 2,100 backs. I believe Judkins was like top 20 of all those metrics.
Yeah, I was trying to confirm that, but yeah, Judkins ran like a 4.48. That's 81st percentile. That's a 91st percentile speed score for his size. He's got a 92nd percentile burst score. So all those boxes are checked. Dylan Sampson actually didn't test very well. So that was a little concerning. And then also the metrics for me too were a little concerning, but obviously he's one of the younger running backs. But yeah, Judkins.
There's some rumblings too that Stefanski might be going for that whole kind of Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt vibe when he had both those guys and try to pair those two. I could totally see that pan out. It has been a very good run scheme when it's running at its best, when it has talent running in that zone scheme. And Sampson is a great zone runner. So I could see him, 10-ish carries a game, doing some real damage. But I'm going with that. What's that?
They have Jerome Ford, though.
Yeah, I think Ford's dead. When I'm doing my
I do too. I don't think he's good at all, but he exists. So
he's not going to do a thing. When you draft these two running backs, Ford's getting kicked to the wind unless Sampson really can't pass protect or gets blown up. Yeah, that's where Ford could potentially come back in. This is Judkins' backfield. I would be shocked if Sampson's even 30% compared to what the 60 to 70% Judkins is going to get. And the fact that Judkins was the third running back off the board, top of round 2, a fringe first round capital almost there. He's going to feast. He's another one of those ones you could call a winner from this draft class as well. We went into like our 3 or 4 favorite ones, but just to toss out a few other names I've seen people mentioning as winners. Scatterbo going to the Giants, where he could be truly a true 3-down back, unseat Tyrone Tracy. That sounds like our guy over there, Tanner, thinks is going to happen. I think Tootin ends up in a nice spot there with Jacksonville, bringing that explosiveness, and Liam Cohen's offense seems to really be handpicking the guys he wants, and that's going to actually transition us pretty nicely into the wide receiver winners and open up an interesting debate. I'm going to kind of let you two have at this. I got this question already on Twitter. Who is the first wide receiver you should be taking off the board in rookie-only drafts? Is it Travis Hunter? Is it Tet McMillan? I know CJay has Travis Hunter as one of his biggest wide receiver winners. I'm with you here too, but I know Tanner also might feel a little differently as to who should be the first receiver off the board as well. But let's talk about Travis Hunter first, CJay. Why is he a winner? And then maybe we could dive into, should he be the first receiver off the board as well in rookie drafts?
Yeah, I think it starts with Jacksonville and their millennial GM, who's just I kind of love this guy. 34 years old, just making a gigantic splash, like changing the whole franchise around. He wanted his guy. They moved up 3 spots. They gave up 1 million picks, next year's first round pick. So they draft him, and then they get to the press conference, and the first thing Liam Cohen says is he's playing primarily offense.
Yeah.
And we're gonna like play him a little bit on defense. Hunter did say before the draft, "Oh, if I'm gonna quit football if I'm not allowed to play both sides." But I think that like, oh, we're gonna like let him play a little bit of defense. That was just like, hey, we're gonna throw you a bone, make you happy, but you're playing offense for us. And I just think the NFL now, I know Brian Thomas is there. He had, what was it, like 140 targets last year, really is their only real receiver. But the NFL now, it's like run after they catch. They don't really funnel through X receivers as much anymore. And I just feel that with Hunter's skill set, Cohen's like great with slot receivers. He was there with LA for Cooper Kupp's best seasons. Chris Godwin last year was on pace for like a great wide receiver 1 season. That slot role is awesome. They're going to move Hunter around. They'll manufacture a bunch of touches for him. He'll probably get 8 to 10 touches per game. I think that's all he needs to put up like high-end receiver 2 or low-end receiver 1 numbers in Jacksonville.
100%. Yeah, 170 vacated targets, so top 5 in terms of available volume as well. And you mentioned it, Liam Cohen's scheme is just an absolute receiver goldmine. They are talking about moving Brian Thomas into the slot as well too, but that's what made this offense so dangerous, is that there doesn't have to be one dedicated slot guy. They're going to move these guys all around the formation when Thomas is stretching the field, and then Hunter can get underneath, and then vice versa. Brian Thomas wants to lift the lid, and then suddenly you got Travis Hunter working underneath. And even like Diami Bro, I know is just more of a role player and going to serve his purpose on the field more so than a fantasy player, but he can burn deep too. So I just love what Liam Cohen's doing. Both Chris Godwin and Mike Evans were top 10 in fantasy points per game last season. And you mentioned he was the wide receiver coach when Cooper Kupp had that massive breakout. And you just listen to, I get it, the press conferences, the Duval, he's a tool at times on the press conference. But then if you also watch him like break down his film of his plays and his scheming, the guy's a genius. I really do believe Liam Cohen's going to be one of the next great play callers, and he's going to have some real offensive success. Now, I don't know if I love Trevor Lawrence. I've never really liked Trevor Lawrence, and been proven right so far. But hey, this is better than, and why I also consider it a huge win is we all expected him to be going to Cleveland, and we thought it was going to be Deshaun Watson's corpse or potentially a day 2 rookie throwing him the rock. And even if I don't like Trevor Lawrence, that's a big upgrade. And we saw what Liam Cohen did for Baker Mayfield. I do like Baker more than Trevor Lawrence, no doubt about it, just in general. But still, maybe he does just need a couple more weapons and needs the right play caller to give him these type of layup looks. Travis Hunter's going to just absolutely feast with Brian Thomas on the other side, drawing number 2 coverage and getting these type of schemed up looks. It's going to be a gold mine. So yeah, I love Travis Hunter. Given this fact that he is confirmed going to be more of a wide receiver in this good offense with a quality pass, a QB thrown to him, I'm taking him at the first wide receiver off the board in rookie drafts, probably at 103 or so for me, behind those 2 big running backs. Is he your number 1, CJ? Are you Tet or are you Travis?
No, Travis is my one of my first receiver in Dynasty, and then he's my 104 overall in Superflex with Genty, Hampton, Cam Ward, Hunter, and then Tet right behind him.
So what do you think of that, Tanner? Is that blasphemy? Is Tet the true number 1 wide receiver? Or what do you think?
So pre-draft, I had Burden wide receiver 1, Tet wide receiver 2, Travis wide receiver 3. For me now, after the draft, I didn't expect that the Bears would get both my tight end 1 and my wide receiver 1. So that kind of divvies things up in terms of me for who between Tet and Luther, not Travis. Travis is going to be playing behind Brian Thomas Jr. Okay. Brian Thomas Jr. was tremendous last year. Like, he is already a top 5 to 6 wide receiver in the game, potentially. At least for the foreseeable future, he is. And I think Liam Cohen was most excited, I believe, about Brian Thomas Jr. Going from the Bucs to the Jags. And I don't think he's going to take that opportunity for granted. We knew Travis is going to play defense at some point, and that seems to be the case. Obviously, he's going to play offense first, but at some point, he is going to be more involved on the defensive scheme. So we don't know if that's going to take snaps from him on offense or et cetera. CJay thinks he's going to get 8 to 10 touches a game. With, how bad their offense is, maybe. But Cohen likes his run game, and he likes his run tandems. So, Etienne and Bigsby, they're going to be running. I don't think he's planning on moving Etienne. That might come as a surprise later this offseason. But in terms of who's my wide receiver one now, I'd say in Dynasty, I'm taking Ted, just because I had him and Luther so close, and the landing spots kind of divvied up for me. And Luther Burden landed with, in a great landing spot with Ben Johnson, to be honest. But like I said, I didn't know that they'd get my tight end one as well. So that changes things. There's a lot of mouths to feed there, while the opportunity is wide open in Carolina. Xavier Legette is not good. Adam Thielen is washed. They got nobody for the most part. And I believe Bryce was touting for Tet as well. So I think that's going to be good chemistry wise for Bryce. Bryce hasn't had a wide receiver one before, and the Panthers have never drafted as productive of a receiver as Tet ever, or at least in recent memory. I've hated pretty much all of their picks, the Panthers, the last few years. So I think this is a great pick for them. Obviously, wide receiver is a huge need. But like I said, so CJ's got Travis, wide receiver one. I would take Tet, wide receiver one. And the reason for that mostly being is the opportunity. Not only that, but Tet, I had pre-draft, I had Tet over Travis. He's a better true receiver. McMillan is a better true receiver than Hunter is. But the reason Tet Hunter's going higher is because he plays two positions. So he's going to get that higher draft capital. But if Travis was drafted as just a receiver, would he be taken over Tet?
Yes,
I'm asking you.
I think so. Yes, I think he's a better overall receiver.
I think
he was just drafted
very close.
I think these are all just hypotheticals because they're saying if he was only drafted as a receiver, that'd be if he only played receiver in college. Which I think if he had a real coach, wasn't coached by someone's father, and had real coaching, went to LSU, Ohio State, whatever, he's more toolsy than Ted is. I think he's a way better athlete. I wouldn't say way better athlete, but a better athlete. And I think Travis is especially in that offense where Cohen, they're going to be creative. They're young. They're going to do a bunch of crazy shit over there. I don't know. I'm into Travis right now as my receiver one. I'll bet on the talent. And
yeah. Betting on that's the thing that I say too is bet on talent over the situation. Situation usually doesn't mean as much as you think it does. Usually it's blown out of proportion after the draft. Trevion moves up, everybody moves back. Dylan Sampson's out of the second round now. So I would just take the landing spots with a grain of salt, kind of, and just not worry so much about it. But this Travis Hunter landing in Jacksonville, I think is that is impactful that he's playing with Brian Thomas Jr. You have to think about that. Tet is not playing with Brian Thomas Jr. No one even close to Brian Thomas Jr. And Luther, I actually think all these guys I'd put one after another, Tet, Luther, Travis. Luther got a great landing spot. Ben Johnson is going to know exactly what to do with Luther, and then know exactly what to do with Loveland. And I'm not so high on Odunze. I don't think Odunze is that great. DJ Moore is obviously their wide receiver one, but he's 28. So when Burden's rookie contract is up, he'll be 32. Someone's going to be the alpha in that offense. and I'm going to bet on either Burden or Loveland. And if it's either of them, I'm you win. So if you can get Ben Johnson's like leading pass catcher for Caleb Williams, win. So I'm kind of betting that Burden eventually will take on a bigger role, or Loveland will take on a bigger role, or they both will. So Ben Johnson obviously has experience with a tight end one in Laporta and experience in a wide receiver one in Amon-Ra. And obviously Jameson Williams too had his production as well in Detroit. So the wide receiver too can produce in a Ben Johnson offense even. So that is intriguing to me. I still would probably I would not doubt, I would not be surprised if Luther has a better career than McMillan. Still, I had him wide receiver one pre-draft, and I still am kind of like wishy-washy about it. They're neck and neck for me. They're very different receivers, obviously, but even like CJay said, those outside X receivers aren't like the thing anymore. It's more these, yards after the catch guys, these stop on a dime and go guys. Like these guys are the ones that are becoming elite in our game today. So, that's pretty much my take there.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of validity to, an offensive mind like Ben Johnson, hand selecting his guys, getting them in there. In particular, Luther Burden, who is so good after the catch, who the big criticism was, it's just all designed looks and getting in that. Well, nobody designs that type of yak stuff better than Ben Johnson. We're just talking about Liam Cohen being a master of it. Ben Johnson might be the only guy actually better at that. You see what Amon-Ra has done. He learned also with Cooper Kupp as well. He's part of that organization too. And so he's great at that layup stuff. So it does become like, if Burden is clearly going to be that slot guy, maybe not in year one, DJ Moore probably has it, but hey, you never know. The question becomes, they talked a lot about 12 personnel, wanting to have two tight ends on the field. They have Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland now. And so then who comes off? Is it a Dunze? Is it DJ Moore? Is it Burden with lesser blocking type of skills in that sense? It is a lot of mouths to feed, but I also do love when just one of the brightest minds in the game hand selects his pieces. So I do think both these guys are winners in Loveland and Burden just because of that ringing endorsement from a great mind. I do worry, though, about the target competition and just seeing how it all shakes out, at least from a redraft perspective. But certainly in a dynasty, I think what you guys talk about, betting on talent is huge. And what I'm starting to try to do a little bit more in dynasty as well is like betting on talent, and then betting on talent that good offensive minds are betting on themselves at the NFL level. I like to see that play out. I think betting on coordinators now, betting on coaches is becoming far more valid than it might have been even 10 years ago. Betting on the guys that Sean McVay likes. If he sees something, he knows the roles he wants to craft for this. Okay, I'm going to go for it. I do think Ben Johnson has earned that. I think Liam Cohen is on his way to earning that. In terms of a select few type of offensive minds that I will also, in addition to talent, betting on those guys that those guys want. I do still think it comes down to Tet versus Travis as the number one in this rookie class. I do still lean with Travis. I'm with CJay. I think just a little more explosive with a guy that's going to know how to generate those explosive opportunities better than anybody. But man, you do make a compelling case. Like, who is Tet competing with? We have seen that his offensive coordinator there, or the head coach rather, Mike Evans with Tampa Bay, DK Metcalf with Seattle. He's used those big body wide receivers very, very well. And so Tet's that next mold. A lot of the comps for him was Mike Evans with a little more speed potentially. So this could be that perfect. What's that?
I was going to say Drake London was the popular comp for
Drake
Tet.
London's a very popular one as well. Perfect type of that mold that they've used so well in that style there. I think they wanted Leggett to be that. He just wasn't. I think Tet can absolutely be that. I just don't know if I buy Bryce Young yet. I saw some good glimpses last year. Certainly had his stretches. I'm not fully there.
So I don't buy Bryce Young either necessarily, but I do think he's capable of just at least being like a starting quarterback. He was top, as gross as this is to say, he was top 5 in big time throw rate last year.
I don't care.
We're just,
I know you don't care. I know you don't care. That's Tet's game, though. Tet's game is contested catches. It is no separation, very little like his route tree isn't elite. It's not expanded. It's going to be him using his physicality and making contested catches. That's what Tet is.
I also think Tet was like underrated by the time of the draft. Like it started off as, entering the season, it was he's 101 for receiver, and then it turned into like, oh, he's kind of big, whatever. But like when you actually watch him, he's actually, I think he separates pretty well, and he's actually better after the catches.
He's gotten a lot better. Like at least this past season, he was.
He also, when Arizona's coaching staff changed, like right before the season, the whole offense fell apart. His quarterback sucked. He's like 5'6". He was in a horrible situation last year on a team that like they had a ton of potential going into the season. They were going to be around like ranked like 15 or so and like projected for like a playoff spot. And then once their head coach left for Washington, like a few months before the season, it was a disaster in Arizona last year. I think Tet was like mostly affected by it.
Absolutely could have been. And yeah, I think he is a lot more fluid than he gets credit for. You're not just that classic big body only contested, very good at that stuff, but he can separate quite well. And again, Dave Canales, I talked about how well I think Liam Cohen will use a guy like Travis Hunter in that skill set. With Dave Canales, again, those big bodies, the Mike Evans, the DK Metcalf, both had career years under Canales. So I think it's all both great fits. And I think both these guys, you can't really go wrong. I still lean Hunter if I had to pick one today, but it's a close by, 103, 104, whatever you want to go with it. Those two guys are going to be beasts for sure. And the last wide receiver winner I want to talk about, and again, I guess this goes with similar to RJ Harvey being 24, Trey Harris being 23. I have no issue with the older guys. And I think Trey Harris, I get it. I know why people adjust for age and all that. I think this guy's an absolute monster, and I'm going to play into Mo's here's comments where he says you got to say the yards per route number for Trey Harris, the YPRR. It's absolutely insane. The only receiver in Power 5 history to average over 5 yards per route run just from any part of the field. But in addition, it also averages 5.13 yards per route as an outside receiver too. You kick him inside of the slot, also over 5 yards per route as well. So didn't matter where he lined up, but a lot of people will get those high, gaudy yards per route run numbers because of those design looks. Not this guy, though, doing it on the outside, doing it against man coverage. Absolute animal is Trey Harris. Says he's out for defensive back souls. Love those type of quotes. I'm a sucker for that stuff as well. But then you ultimately get to this landing spot, and I get it. Ladd McConkey, the number one there. I won't argue that. But they are ripe for a number 2 wide receiver here. I don't buy Quentin Johnston. Yeah, he had a couple big games there last year. But I just look at that more so like, hey, if Quentin Johnston can do some solid things, I think Trey Harris is at least 1, if not 2 to 3 steps above what Quentin Johnston is as a wide receiver. So the most complete, one of the most complete X receivers in this class. I think he's going to work perfectly with that more slot build of Ladd McConkey. I love Trey Harris. And again, you come at me with the age stuff, come at me with the injury stuff. It's valid, but I just see that next kind of Ole Miss big body beast coming in here and doing good things from the NFL level. And who better do that within a cannon arm like Justin Herbert? So I think Trey Harris was a huge winner. Maybe I'm just praising my best ball bags because he is my actual highest owned player as of right now in best ball. But I love it. This was exactly where I wanted to see him land, and I'm so happy he's there. What do you guys think?
Well, I was just going to read off his yards per route run. He had 5.12 yards per route run.
Insane.
Like a good yards per route run is like 2 yards per route run. Like that is insane. That's absurd.
The next closest is Devonta Smith on outside routes with 3.6. That's Devonta Smith, like a very good NFL receiver is 3.6 when he was in college, like elite top 5 pick type of receiver. And he blows him out by nearly 2 yards per route run. It's a big deal. This is impressive.
Devonta is like one of the best college receivers ever. At least
he might be the best college receiver ever. Yeah. But yeah, I was gonna say Trey Harris. I had him wide receiver 7 pre-draft. No change for me, none. I think he's perfect right there where he is. I would still probably take Igbuka just in the long run, dynasty wise. I'd still probably take Jaden Higgins. I really like Jaden Higgins. I think that's a great landing spot in Houston for him. And I do think Quentin Johnson might have more of a role than you think. And they also have McConkey too. So honestly, Trey Harris is kind of like Quentin Johnson a little bit, like slightly. Obviously not. They were both great college receivers. Okay, Quentin Johnson was a good college receiver. So
he
Trey
plays
Harris,
so much softer than his size, though. I always thought that guy was kind of a little bitch and alligator arm and stuff. Trey Harris is more of a man. Like
Quentin Johnson had a problem with the body catching. A lot of body catching.
Just catching in general.
Just catching the ball.
Like if he wasn't catching like a 2-yard drag route and like running after the catch.
Wait, Quentin Johnson, QJ kind of had a good year though this year, somewhat.
It was okay.
That's what's giving me hopes too, is because I don't think he's very good, but he did have a pretty good year. And like I just picture Trey Harris taking that job, being better at it, and putting up better numbers as a result.
Yeah, maybe. I haven't changed. I had Harris at receiver 6, and he's stuck in my receiver 6. So yeah, I'm happy with this spot.
So another thing too that was to take into account, at least with all these other prospects, is he also had Jaxson Dart too, and he can sling it.
And that offense is just very like easy.
Ole Miss was first in passing grade this past year amongst all teams, and they were 10th in 2023. So those that is reflected in Trey Harris's box score stats and everything. An
interesting nugget on that too, though, Tanner, is the games that Trey Harris missed. You could see the noticeable just like statistical dip, and also just in general performance from Jaxson Dart. Like he seemed a little bit more lost. That was his go-to guy, and I love Dart. I'm not hating on him. We're going to talk about him as a winner, but you could really feel the absence of Trey Harris there when he did miss time. And so that's part of why I also still really love this guy too.
And that's a fair point, but I mean, every quarterback is gonna, be a little more overwhelmed losing their wide receiver 1 or not having their wide receiver 1, right?
Sure.
And the other Ole Miss wide receivers, just kind of to mention, are like what Antoine Wells Jr. and some other guy that got drafted that probably shouldn't have. But
I know you're talking about.
I don't remember what his name was.
We were making fun of it yesterday. I forget it.
Yeah, I was like, wait, they drafted a wide receiver 3 from Ole Miss and not Antoine Wells. Like Wells was actually not bad. Like he's like pretty decent. He's just like 24 or 25 or something like that. But yeah, like that is something that I took into account too, is just Trey's age, and the offense that he was in. Tet and Luther were in a lot worse offenses, like horribly, way worse. Travis was in a great offense. Colorado was like top 15 in passing grade both the last 2 years. So Travis definitely benefited from that too, as well. But yeah, I like Trey Harris. Like just because I have him wide receiver 7 does not mean I don't like him. I like Trey Harris, but I like 6 other guys better. So
yeah, and you mentioned one of them, and I don't know if CJay, you still have this guy above him. Somebody I consider a loser, and you brought up Jaden Higgins today. I certainly think Jalen Noel was the bigger loser of the 2 teammates from college. Both of them landing with the Texans here. I have a hard time considering Higgins a huge winner though. You land with the Texans. CJ Stroud, up for debate right now how valid he is. I think he's going to bounce back. I think we're going to see more rookie year, more resemblance to that rookie year than what we saw last year in a better Rams-inspired scheme. My big issue is, though, you got Nico Collins. Nobody's demanded more targets per route than Nico Collins across these past 2 years. An absolute magnet for the ball. So whether it ends up being Noel, who I do think is very talented. Dane Brugler had Jalen Noel actually ahead of Jaden Higgins in his pre-draft rankings. So I don't even think it's a guarantee that Higgins will actually outplay and start over Noel, who I think brings a little bit more down the field. I don't know. We'll see there. But even if he does, whoever does end up winning that number 2 receiver role, assuming that it's not Christian Kirk even right now, it's just such a congested system that you're still just fighting for whatever Nico Collins is leaving on the table for you, which isn't typically all that much. So I do like both of these guys. I was hoping certainly that they would separate. We could kind of see what they would do away from each other. And then they go and land behind a true alpha. I just don't love where either of these Iowa State guys landed. And I do have Trey Harris above both of them now at this point. But maybe I should be betting more on talent there. I'm not sure. Let me know what you guys think. Are they actual losers or why? Tanner, you said you like Jaden Higgins here. Why are you not worried about Nico, or why do you think he's clearly going to beat out Noel? Like, what do you think on that sense?
So so a lot of people debated Noel and Higgins. I have Higgins well over Noel. Like, it's not even close.
You're probably the lowest I know of anyone on Noel.
Yeah, I might be. They're both both athletic freaks. But Higgins was better in literally every one of my metrics than Noel, like by a significant margin. Enough to almost make me think about putting Jaden Higgins over Igbuka. And you could even chat about that now because Igbuka is literally going to be the wide receiver 3 for the Buccaneers. So, enjoy your Igbuka share, CJ. I will not. I'm going to be fading.
We have him coming up. Igbuka will be up soon.
But anyways, Higgins, just to kind of go through, he was 7th in rec yards per team pass attempt in this class, 8th in rec yards market share. To compare that to Noel was 15th in rec yards per team pass attempt and 19th in rec yards market share. And as for dominant ratings, breakout age, stuff like that, also Higgins clears. Noel had a 36th percentile breakout age, so broke out very late in his college career, 63rd percentile college dominator rating, and a 78th percentile college target share. Higgins is far more intriguing with 76th percentile college dominator rating, a 93rd percentile college target share. So it was Higgins commanding that Iowa State offense, not Noel. Noel was a great counterpiece to that offense, but Higgins is 6'4" and 215, and he runs a 4.47, which was just a little bit short of Noel, who's quite smaller. So I think Higgins can absolutely command a target share in Houston. I'm not super high on CJ Stroud. I don't love him, but I do think that he's capable of commanding a passing offense, and Nico has benefited from that. Higgins can be a good another outside guy with Nico. Jalen Noel, I'm very sure that he is going to be behind Higgins, not just because of draft capital reasons, but just because of also how their Iowa State careers went. So I am without a doubt higher on Higgins. I might even I'm thinking about maybe moving Higgins above Igbuka, potentially.
Ooh. Interesting. Well, I know we're going to talk about Igbuka as a loser. CJ, do you want to add any thoughts on Higgins and Noel before we move to him, or do you want to use that to transition right to Igbuka?
Yeah, I don't really, as we said earlier, I don't really love the fit for either. Higgins is he kind of reminds me of Nico a little bit, like the bigger body receivers. They kind of, I feel like they both play an X more so. I mean, obviously you can move Nico around a bit more, and then Noel too. He didn't really do as much in college. He didn't produce at that level, and he was more of like the late bloomer, like the Senior Bowl. Everyone loved him. He tore up one-on-ones, which are like the easiest things to do in the world. Like you just have an entire field to play with no pass rush. And you can just dance around for 5 minutes and get open. And that's like everyone breaks Twitter over that stuff. So I did like Noel, but I would go Higgins between the two of them.
Yeah, I do too as well. 80, Noel more of that slot. 73% of his routes came out of the slot, whereas Higgins 83% were out wide. And so if Christian Kirk, is actually going to be a factor there, Higgins, you have a lot more flexibility where you put him, how he gets on the field, better blocker as well. So I do think it's clearly Higgins over Noel. I think Noel's the clear loser. I still just don't know that either are going to be ultimately that productive when you have Nico Collins. You really need CJ Stroud to get back to that rookie year where he was throwing for 400 yards a game and creating a pie that was well worth sharing for many mouths. Maybe he gets there. I don't know that I have full faith that he does. So I don't consider either of them winners. Necessarily, I consider both a downgrade. And like I said, I bumped Trey Harris above both Iowa State boys. But we alluded to the fact that Igbuka was also a loser in terms of where he landed. The third wide receiver off the board, kind of surprisingly, I think, for many, lands with the Bucks. Crowded situation. I know, CJ, you're an Ohio State guy, and even you could put away your biases and you kind of recognize why this is not an optimal spot? Why do you consider Egbuka a loser here?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to redraft, he's probably cooked this year. Like, it's going to be in that JSN situation where you have, like, the two guys. I know they're both getting older. Godwin's coming off that major injury. The Buccaneers just also paid him. So they, like, went into a bidding war against the Patriots and overpaid him. And I don't know. There's you have Evans, who's going to be 32. Godwin's coming off the injury. And then you also have Jalen McMillan, who also plays in the slot, and he actually balled out last year. I think to end the season, he had 7 touchdowns in 8 games. I want to say,
yeah, he's a top 12 wide receiver for that
He
last
killed
6
it.
weeks.
He killed it. My
yeah.
biggest.
So like,
selling
now you
dynasty.
have three slot guys that are playing on the same field. So I didn't understand when I started seeing mocks like the day before the draft of them going after receiver. It just didn't make much sense to me. I do see wanting to have the future with Evans' age and Godwin's history, but dynasty-wise, though, I do like Egbuka because of those reasons. It is kind of like a JSN situation where you have Tyler Lockett aging out, and Egbuka can move right into Godwin's role eventually. And even Evans, he can play on the outside. He did play more slot at Ohio State, but he does have the ability to play on the outside. Was a 5-star, tested better than I thought athletically. And he did actually play well down the field. They started using a little bit more. It's tough there because you're competing with a bunch of 5-stars, and so he's never going to put up the best stats, although he did finish as Ohio State's leading receiver in the history of the school.
It's all time, right? They're all-time leading receiver, right?
Exactly. I mean, it did take him 4 years, and he was hurt his junior year.
I was going to say that's because all the receivers get drafted early.
Yeah, if he came out last year after the McCord season, it wouldn't have went well for him. But yeah, I would say redraft, I would fade him as much as possible, but dynasty, I still have him receiver. Where is he? Actually, I have him receiver 3 over Luther. So that's where I am with Emeka.
Like I said, I'm between Higgins and him, so I don't know. But I do agree. It is kind of like I think I mentioned that to you yesterday, actually. Like, this Emeka situation is very similar to JSN. He is not JSN. So that
I was just going to say, except that he's not JSN.
Except that he's not JSN. And a lot of people talked a lot of shit on JSN after his rookie season, and I held the hope, and he, I believe, is going to be pretty good. So, I mean, I don't know how it's going to look with Cup, obviously, but yeah, Emeka is a current loser. Dynasty, maybe I'd buy later on in the season after he doesn't produce. Could probably get him cheaper. But yeah, I don't like Jalen McMillan, so I wouldn't be worried about McMillan in the sense that he's going to overtake Egbuka or whatever. If those two duke it out in the future, Egbuka is going to win, in my opinion. McMillan, I would sell if you could. I don't know if you can now, but if you can, I would sell Jalen McMillan, not Ted McMillan, but Jalen McMillan. But yeah, Egbuka is going to be a loser for me. I think I might actually put Higgins over him.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because I actually do like McMillan too, and I like what I saw down the stretch. The Tampa Bay Bucks vacated exactly 0 targets from last year, and we talk about Egbuka, and what was holding him back was he was always surrounded by such good receivers. And fair, yes, they were Olave and JSN, and this year that the kid that would have been number 5 overall probably if he had come out. The next Julio Jones,
number one overall.
Yeah, number 1 maybe. Ridiculous. So he's been playing with some serious talent, but again, you're talking Godwin, you're talking Evans. I like McMillan, so maybe not. I know he's certainly not in that tier of guys, but this is a crowded situation that did not open up any volume. So I just don't have any sense of where Buka's role is going to come from early on. But him and Godwin are so repetitive and redundant as a skill set. So maybe this is reflective on him, not the knees not recovering quite as well. But even then, I like what I saw from McMillan. So I don't see where Egbuka fits in. It was just a very head-scratching pick to me. The one dynasty thing that I do love about this is the Bucs have been an efficient offense. We know that Baker Mayfield looks solid. He loves targeting those slot receivers as well. So if he does rise up and sees a role here, it's going to be a good situation. And he does have the talent to fill that role nicely. But he just, I don't know. It's just too many mouths to feed for me, both certainly for redraft and even in dynasty. I think it's going to be too crowded. We're never going to get a true, even usable wide receiver 2 season. I think it'd be one of those inconsistent wide receiver 3s at best throughout his career. I know Mike Evans, he's going to be gone within the next 5 years or so, most likely. But even then, is that where Ibuka goes in? Probably not. Godwin and him are going to be the ones competing, and Godwin's not that old yet. So, yeah, I'm with you. Big loser for me on this. I was hoping he'd go to the Packers. I thought he could have been a humongous slam dunk if he was their number 1 receiver. So many teams he could have gone to. This was like probably the only one where I love the player, I love the skill set, just do not see where he fits in short and long term.
I was going to say Godwin was on a heater last year.
Wide receiver 2 before he went down in points per game.
Yeah, he was like on a barn burning heater. And then Mike Evans, I think McMillan benefited from that too. That's a huge factor in me thinking that Jalen McMillan is a sell, is because he got most of that opportunity via injury. So when Godwin comes back, they just paid him. I don't know how that's going to look. And a lot of his production was touchdown dependent. Like you said, he had 7 touchdowns in like 8 games. Crazy stretch. So I don't think that touchdown streak is sustainable. I don't think he's going to score a touchdown every week next year or in the future. So, but yeah, this is interesting because Emeka, it does get in the JSN spot, but he's not JSN. And he's not close either. I don't think.
I don't think he's that far behind Jaxson. He was a more highly touted recruit out of high school. That wasn't even close. He was going against Jeremiah Smith last year, which is an alien. It'd be wide receiver 1.
Yeah, but that was before Jaxson Smith did what he did in his sophomore year.
Yeah, and then he had Marv the year before that, and then he had Kyle McCord last year. It was a disaster. But no, I don't think he's that far behind Jaxson.
Now I'd say he is.
Yeah, I guess. It is what it is. But yeah, either way, he is a loser for redraft, and that's like the whole point.
No, so I'm going to keep it moving.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
For sure. Redraft dynasty-wise. I know you got to get running, CJay, in just a couple minutes, and as do I. So we were going to focus on receivers, running backs this show. We did want to just highlight, we talked about Colston Loveland already being a winner, the number 1 wide receiver tight end off the board, ahead of Tyler Warren, landing with, again, the Bears, Ben Johnson, the souped-up version of Sam Laporta. But we also had Terrence Ferguson listed as a tight end winner. Kind of surprisingly, the 4th tight end off the board, ahead of Elijah Arroyo. An interesting spot when Sean McVay, just like I was talking about earlier, when I like to bet on those smart play calling minds, if he's identified you as a weapon he wants, I want to pay attention. But I don't know much about Terrence Ferguson, so you guys give me the lowdown on this guy, because I just saw a tight end 4 and an offense that I like. I don't know much about him. He has to be a winner though if he's going that early. So what's the deal with Terrence Ferguson?
So I think the main reason for him at least going this early is because he tests extremely well. He ran a 4.63 40. That was 86th percentile. That's an 86th percentile speed score as well. He had over 90th percentile in burst score and catch radius. He's 6'5". I think he's 250 almost. So, and the opportunity looks to be wide open for the Rams. Who else do they really have on the depth chart? Colby Parkinson.
Tyler Higbee.
Tyler Higbee, who's very cooked, and then Colby Parkinson, who is also very cooked. So he might get some work from the beginning. We don't know. But from what I saw in an interview with McVay, he seems to love Ferguson and like the pick. He was 10th in rec yards per team pass attempt and 11th in rec yards market share in this class. So not extremely high. I would probably – so one guy's landing spot I did like a lot was Oronde Gadsden landing with the Chargers. That was like my dream spot for Loveland. And I had – so just kind of background, I had a Gadsden over Warren pre-draft. I think this is a very interesting landing spot.
I've never seen love for a player quite like I've seen this.
No, he hasn't. I am dedicated to these guys. I'm full fading Tyler Warren to the end. But yeah, I think Terrence Ferguson got a great landing spot with the Rams. So That's, young offense. McVay's obviously a great coach. Rams do use their tight ends, but they just haven't had one. They've just been kind of signing, 1 years here and there from veterans off free agency. So this, I think, is a good move for them. But yeah, I guess we'll talk about Tyler Warren being a loser.
One thing I did notice, though, before you move off of Ferguson, I just pulled up a quick stat because I was trying to think, okay, McVay, what does he see here? Led this class, Terrence Ferguson, in yak per reception, had averaged 9 yards after the catch per reception there. And you think about Sean McVay, what he does better than anybody is set those layup and go opportunities. Could be a really intriguing fit for a guy that ran the fastest tight end time, 4.63 at the combine at 250 pounds, like you said. I'm very intrigued by this guy. I could see. I know it's a lot of mouths there.
He was
between Puka, but that skill set, the yak ability, that could be really interesting there.
He was first in yak per rec and amongst this entire class, and he had like a pretty healthy yards per route run. He was 7th. I would totally take a shot on Ferguson. I just don't know. These tight ends are hard because tight ends don't usually get production right away. So a lot of people give up on tight ends early because they don't get production right away. And a lot of the time it's, you're in Njoku, 26, 27-year-old breakout. Like those are the guys that I'm like looking to buy. But I would still take Fannin and Gadsden over Ferguson. I don't care that Fannin landed behind Njoku because he'll eventually be the future tight end. And tight ends, you got to be patient with them.
I think he's only under contract 1 more year as well.
Njoku?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I could see him moving on for sure. But yeah, like I said, Gadsden, I think that's another winner for me at tight end is Oronde Gadsden, just because like that was my dream landing spot for Colston. Loveland was the Los Angeles Chargers. Unfortunately not. He gets to go with Bird into the Bears. Gadsden goes to the Chargers. But yeah,
Give me the quick skinny on Gadsden because I saw he went to the Chargers at like 160s or so not like insignificant draft capital. And like you said, it's a dream landing spot. Greg Roman's always been good at using those tight ends, especially athletic ones. Like, is this one of those athletic freak move around tight ends? Is he more of a blocker that you keep in line? Like I don't know a thing about it. What's Gadsden's
true receiver? Like if we're talking like probably the best true receiving tight ends in the class, it's going to be probably Loveland and Gadsden.
What about Arroyo too? More than this guy is better than
Arroyo is like if I'm being honest, like he wasn't even on my board before his pro day. Like I don't know if CJay had him on his board either before his pro day. He did. I didn't have him at like T5 though. Like that's
yeah. I think I had him at 6, and then Senior Bowl everyone just their pants and move him up to like 3.
Yeah, I don't see it with him. He's below Terrence Ferguson in both rec yards per team pass attempt and rec yards market share. He just kind of had like a crazy breakout year for Miami. Was very injured the 2 years prior to that, and. Yeah, but in Gadsden's case, I'll kind of give you the rundown. He actually used to be a wide receiver. So in 2022, he transferred over to tight end and was 10th in receiving grade in his first season as tight end. Gadsden is 6'5", 240, is an 80th percentile college dominator rating, 70th percentile yards per reception, and 91st percentile breakout age. Tyler Warren had a 40th percentile breakout age. So that is something that I do keep in mind. And Gadsden is nearly a full year younger and was just short of Warren in dominator rating.
I'm intrigued.
So in terms of rec yards per team pass attempt and rec yards market share amongst this entire class, Fannin was first in both, obviously, but guess who was second? Oronde Gadsden the second. So he's definitely intriguing to me. Loveland was third in those metrics, but he's still our tight end one.
Yeah.
But I love Gadsden.
I like the pitch. I love the opportunity as well. So I'll be bumping him up my rookie tight end rankings, no doubt about it.
Go for it. I would take a shot on Gadsden. He's probably going to go in like your round 3s and 4s of rookie drafts. But I think that's a steal. That is like one besides, him and Fannin are probably the only 2 tight ends I'm looking at outside of Loveland, because obviously I'm full fading Tyler Warren.
Yeah. So go on. Yeah, you just don't, you hate the opportunity.
I have Warren outside the first round now. I mean, I hate him as a prospect. I think he's very easy to watch. So like you see the highlights and he's like bowling over people. He's getting like a 5-yard out and he's going up against this like little 19-year-old corner. He's a big 22-year-old beast. He's just like pushing him off to the side. All of his plays come off yak. He's just such a merchant about like he like makes me puke, honestly. Like he's lining up as Wildcat, which he's not going to be doing much in the NFL, and if he is, it's like a cute play or 2 per game. He's getting, I think there was, I wish I had the stat, but it was, I want to say like 70% of his targets came within 5 yards. Like I just don't like him as an NFL tight end. He can't separate. He doesn't block, so he's really going to be in the slot. Even though people do think he can block because he's physical.
You know who he reminds me of? What? Is Dalton Kincaid, who was also another huge walking fade for me.
But what's funny though is that like a lot of I haven't heard like a pipsqueak about Warren since the draft. Now before the draft, it was like this guy's a line. Oh my god! Yeah, this guy is like going to be the next Gronk. Blah blah blah. He gets drafted. Haven't heard one like sound about him, except now that he's dropped about 5 spots in drafts.
Yeah, I am so not. I hate the landing spot. I hate the prospect. Yeah, that's it. That's like I would have maybe considered Warren like, late first or early second maybe, but with this landing spot, I don't want like just leave him to the dogs. Let someone else get him, because like I hate the landing spot. Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones are going to duke it out all summer for the QB1 job, and they're both horrible. And they're probably going to rely on that run game a little more, to be honest. Like they just got Giddens. What if they do a little tandem with Taylor? They got a great O-line. But yeah, Anthony Richardson is extremely inaccurate. We know this. So I don't know that it's just that it's not intriguing to me.
He's inaccurate like within like the first 10 yards too, and that's exactly where Warren is. He can't separate. He has short arms. He can't have like he just
T-Rex.
I think he disgusts me as a prospect.
I'm surprised you guys hate this guy as much. I don't know. I do hate the landing spot. I hate Anthony Richardson, who's was actually more accurate on 30-yard pass throws than he was 5-yard throws, which is asinine for an NFL quarterback. But it's not going to be his quarterback forever. In fact, probably not most of this year. We do know Daniel Jones. You think about Juan Dale just getting force-fed those targets. Like once he takes over, I could see Warren being that kind of big slot. You mentioned the line, which I do agree. Such a great offensive line. That way you don't need Warren to be a blocker. He is just going to be a big wide receiver. So I do think when Danny Jones takes over, that kind of dink-dunk, scheme it up for Warren to do his after-the-catch thing. I think it will work out better than you two think, but I am with you. I thought he was a little bit overrated coming in. I like Loveland more. He's also clearly the NFL agreed there as well. And he has to be a loser in that sense that he lands one below him, and then also even with there's a decent amount of mouths to feed there in India too. Josh Downs, why would Warren be more of the underneath receiver than Josh Downs, who's great out of the slot himself? Pittman's a big body slot. So a lot of repetitive types there. It's kind of like the tight end of Ibuka, coming in where there's a lot of mouths to feed that do a lot of things he already does. It's a tricky situation there for sure. So do you need to pop up? Do you want to hit Jaxson Dart real quick before you leave, or you got to get out of here?
Yeah, I got to get out of here. If you guys want to hit it.
All right, we'll hit it without you, sir.
Yeah, we're going to hit it.
Have a good one, CJay. Later, brother.
See you guys.
See ya. And so, Jaxson Dart was the guy we picked as a quarterback winner. Makes sense. Obviously, the loser was Shedeur. Sanders. And that one doesn't need much of an explanation. One of the craziest draft day falls I think I've ever seen. Who knows what happened behind closed doors and what those interviews were like. I love what the Browns did. Why not just take a stab at that point? 144. Like, didn't like Shedeur as a prospect, but at that point, you might as well take a stab on him and see how that plays out with Dillon Gabriel. But Jaxson Dart was the only other quarterback taken in round 1 besides number 1 overall pick Cam Ward. And he was, I believe, your quarterback 2, if not quarterback 1, entering the draft, right?
QB1. I mean, you or Dart at least was my QB2. Okay. I put Dart ahead of Shedeur before the draft, and I guess the NFL thought that too. So me and CJay did hit a couple of hot takes, but yeah, the Shedeur slide, man, I don't think anybody could have guessed that. I mean, Mel Kiper was like losing his marbles on live television because it's that's his number one ranked quarterback. So, but yeah, Jaxson Dart, he just landed with Malik Neighbors. We knew they got Jameis Winston. We knew they got Russell Wilson. Those are guys that are not long-term. Those are temporary guys. Those are bridge quarterbacks. Jaxson Dart is young. He's probably not going to play from the get-go. I believe he's going to sit behind Russ, if that's right. But yeah, no one expected this. This is just truly insane. We didn't think Jaxson Dart would even get first-round draft capital. We weren't even sure. So that kind of like shored up these last couple of weeks. But yeah, the Giants had a great draft. Definitely redeemed themselves for their hard knocks. And Jaxson Dart, he's an interesting quarterback. So I mentioned on our last live why I do like him so much. So I do believe that the main reason I put Dart over Shedeur in the first place is because I truly believe that he has the same, if not better, arm than Shedeur, while also having way more rushing mobility. So that is huge for fantasy, obviously, but real life too. You need to scramble. There aren't many QBs these days that don't scramble. So there aren't any like Aaron Rodgers like pocket passers anymore. That is like the way of the old. It is like you adapt to the Patrick Mahomes way of backyard football or die, essentially. So I believe this is a good pick. Jaxson Dart is just he's a fiery player, man. I don't know if you watched the new like Gruden QB room, but it was pretty cool to see Jaxson Dart in there, just kind of like get a look at who he is. But yeah, Dart, just to kind of go through a few like metrics. So rushing equity wise, Jalen Milroe obviously led the class with 32%, but second was Jaxson Dart with 22%. Shedeur had virtually none, and Cam Ward had 8%. So that rushing factor is huge for me. But not only that, Jaxson Dart also led the class in yards per attempt. And he was just short of Cam Ward in PFF grade for their careers. So who knows if Jaxson Dart is really that much worse than Cam Ward. I would not be surprised if in a few years from now, Jaxson Dart is considered better or the same as Cam Ward. So yeah, I think Jaxson Dart's a huge winner. He's going to sit and learn, maybe not from the best quarterbacks on planet Earth, but he's at least going to have that time to just take it in and soak in the NFL. And eventually he's going to get out there with, Malik Neighbors, who we know is a top 3 wide receiver probably in the NFL at the moment. So, yeah, pretty excited about that. Any thoughts?
I also love too the Brian Daboll. You mentioned the rushing for Jaxson Dart, and Daboll said we thought Dart it compares to Josh Allen, and that's who he. Josh Allen was. He has breakout under Brian Daboll over there with the Bills. Went from the quarterback 14 in fantasy points per game 3,020 touchdowns there in his first year. And then Dayball comes in and Josh Allen goes to quarterback 3, 4,500 yards, 37 touchdowns. I know it's all Brian Dayball. Diggs got there, year of progression and all that. But still, this is a play caller that squeezed the most out of his mobile quarterbacks in even in Daniel Jones, he was the quarterback 10 just 2 seasons ago. Entering 2023, he was the quarterback 6 over the second half of the year when Dayball officially took over play calling that year. And then he had his injuries and the Giants have been collapsing. They had no offensive line. I get it. And that is still a concern, is how's the line going to be there? But to say, this is a guy that reminds me of Josh Allen. We've seen what Dayball's done with these mobile type of quarterbacks in the past, these cannon arms, these guys that can throw on the move, these guys that can run for first downs too. It has all the makings of what you want for your fantasy QBs. Real life wise, we'll see how it pans out. I know he's going to be under duress quite a bit, but it has made fantasy goodness in. The fact that Daniel Jones could be a top 10 quarterback in this offense based on the way they use them as runners, it gives me hope for what Jaxson Dart could be. And that was without Malik Neighbors, as you mentioned, a top 3 weapon there. So good weapons there. The right play caller in Dayball, if he lasts, we'll see how long he holds up there. But I think he's set up well. Jaxson Dart, definitely the clear quarterback 2 after the draft, probably should have been ahead of the draft. And a site that I love, Fantasy Points, Scott Barrett and that crew, they actually had Jaxson Dart as their QB1 based on their film study. And I trust their opinions. I respect their opinions big time. So big winner there. The Shedeur loss doesn't need to be overstated to the fact that he fell to day 3 after thinking he might go top 5 overall at one point. Maybe he wins the Browns job, maybe not. He's certainly just undraftable to me, honestly, in any format. At
the
this
Browns,
point, Gabriel. I don't know. I want nothing to do
Browns,
with it.
The Browns literally have a QB bullpen, is what I'm going to call it.
Seriously.
They could play a different quarterback every quarter.
Right.
Like, seriously, it's ridiculous. I don't know what they're going to do. They have Shedeur, obviously. They drafted Dylan Gabriel ahead of him. I had Gabriel as my QB 6, actually, and Shedeur as my QB 3. So who knows there? Gabriel is literally the size of like a child. So he's very small. At least according to CJay too, seeing him in real life next to Herbert, I guess. But I don't know who's necessarily going to start there for the Browns. I think they'll probably give Shedeur a run. In the offseason, I think they said that it's open competition. Like, I believe everybody's going to compete for that starting job. So that is insane to me. Like, that is a mess. Like, they got
Cleveland often is.
Their draft literally looked like an auto draft.
Right. Yeah. They call it like the star and the star method in your queue in fantasy drafts. Like you just mistakenly forgot to take the star after you had too many quarterbacks on your team already. Fantasy drafting wise. I love it.
Unreal.
For sure. But hey, guys, that wraps up our rookie, just kind of instant reactions, losers, winners. Obviously, this does not cover every single player by any means. We're going to have tons of write-ups. There already are a bunch of write-ups going up at rotostreetjournal.com. My man Tanner's rankings will be updated live there. CJay is going to be updating his rookie rankings as well. And I will have the best ball and redraft rankings, so more of that seasonal format, updated as of tomorrow. I'll be going live in the morning to review those ranking changes. Where do the rookies slide in from an annual perspective? How does it impact the veterans? Risers like Chase Brown, who does not get really much backfield competition added, those type of things I'll be going over tomorrow morning. So come on and join me for that. In terms of some comments here, just before we wrap up, Austin, great to see you. He says hi to CJay. We'll make sure to pass that along. And so, yeah, Book at 206. Okay, we talked about him as a loser, somebody that lost some value in this draft.
That's great value.
206, like that's overboard. He's still talented enough. This is still a good enough offense. Baker Mayfield has clearly shown he can pepper slot receivers. So whether he does overtake Godwin, whether there's the injury never heals up, whatever it might be, that's worth the change. And maybe Igbokwe never really pans out with Tampa Bay, but he goes to a new team in 4 or 5 years. Either way, clearly above Shedeur in Dynasty, especially for a team that had Hurts and next. So I think you made out like a bandit there, Austin. It depends on what running backs were there, what other positions. But if it was Shedeur versus Igbokwe, yeah, I'm going Igbokwe 10 out of 10 times. And at the 206, regardless, it's well worth the stab. We're more so saying he's a faller. Like, he was a clear first rounder for us, and now it's more so that fringe early second type of guy, for me at least. So yeah, I like Egbuka at the 206. What do you think, Tanner?
I think that's great value. I would probably put him like just outside my first round, to be honest.
Me too.
Like right outside. So, and if I moved Higgins ahead of him, it'd still be the same. The wide receivers are very closely valued. I really think the biggest teardrop is going to be from Genty to the 102. That's in my opinion is the biggest teardrop. After that, it's value is free game. I was able to get Luther Burden at 112 last night. That's nice. I am ecstatic about that. Was stoked. So I got Ted at 106. These receivers are going lower than they were originally projected to go. So it's interesting. Anthony says, what late round quarterback that was drafted this year do you think can make a significant or decent impact in fantasy this season?
Shedeur. I mean, honestly, like if one of these guys is going to be actually solid in the day 3 quarterbacks, it's going to be Shedeur. The fall, warranted or not, however he handled himself in the interviews, still has a solid arm talent. Nothing remarkable about this guy, and so that showed on how far he fell. But at the end of the day, he's got an open road in Cleveland. He's got to beat out Dylan Gabriel. Who knows if he will? I don't think the draft capital really comes into play at that point because it's just an open competition. Yeah. And so out of all these guys, as big as the fall was for Shedeur, I think he'd be the kind of easy answer. Is there another quarterback that you like, though?
No, that's a good take, though. But, like pre-draft, that wouldn't have been the take, right?
Right.
Because everyone thought this guy was going first round. So, obviously, that's a pretty good take. Like, Shedeur is a good late-round receiver to take a dart on. But I did mention in the quarterback video that my QB5 was Will Howard, and my QB6 was Dylan Gabriel. I think if there's going to be any like mystery relevant or Brock Purdy, it's going to be one of those guys. And potentially Milroe. Milroe went to the Seahawks. They traded Sam Howell to trade up in the draft and get Jalen Milroe. So that's an interesting signing. I don't think Jalen Milroe is that great of a passer, but who knows? He could be like a Fields or a Hurts or something like that and just kind of grow into a role of some sort. Darnold is there. Darnold just signed kind of a Geno deal as well. He says, what about Quinn? I didn't even rank Quinn Ewers in my
I'm not a fan.
I would not touch him with a 10-foot pole.
No.
But yeah,
you mentioned Milroe too, though. I love that call in terms of, I agree with you as a real quarterback. Don't love the guy, don't love the arm. But fantasy-wise, there's stats about how Tim Tebow was a top 6 quarterback. One of the worst arms that's ever entered the league. But because rushing production, they call it the Konami code for a reason, because rushing production from your QB, no matter how bad you are as a passer, I don't have the exact stat with me. I've cited a bunch in the draft guide. It's something along the lines of like, out of any quarterbacks, has probably been like the last 20 quarterbacks to get 100 attempts or see 500 rushing yards. Only one of those has not been a top 10 quarterback in fantasy points per game. It was Cam Newton during the Patriots season. And even as bad as that was, he was still like the quarterback 14 that year. It's just such a cheat code when you can get fantasy production out of the leg points from your QBs. And so, I do get, what he's saying, Manzano, like Tua's probably going to get hurt. You got a good system around you. You got good weapons around you with Mike McDaniels, getting Tyreek and Waddle. But I think Quinn Ewers sucks. Like you had good weapons in Texas, and I don't believe in him at all.
People are clinging to this. He was a very highly touted QB prospect, 5-star. But he is not what you think he is. He is not good. He says, what about Kyle McCord? Also not good. The Ohio State tape was truly awful. I don't know if you saw Hard Knocks. Like Brian Dable was like kind of like interviewing Marvin Harrison Jr. and talking about a route that he was running. He's like, oh my God, that's a horrible throw. And he's talking about Kyle McCord. But yeah, so back to kind of like who maybe a Mr. Irrelevant would be is Will Howard. Will Howard is 6'4", 236. That is like exactly Josh Allen's height and weight. He's got a 93rd percentile college QBR, 92nd percentile breakout age. He had a 9.4 college yards per attempt, which was 87th percentile. So all those like metrics kind of check out. He had over 1,000 rushing yards in college. He's just not really like the best thrower in the class. But he, could be something there. Maybe.
Yeah.
No.
If I'm
Dylan
taking late
Gabriel.
stats on QBs, and you mentioned the rush yards, I was going to ask, does Howard have any rushing production? That's always my default. Like if I'm not getting one of those surefire Cam Wards, the guys that I know are starting, I just focus on those dart throws that can run. Because if they become fantasy starters, they don't have to even be good to be quality fantasy products. So Jalen Milroe was the one that I immediately thought of.
The thing is with Will Howard, at least, is that he got taken by the Steelers. Steelers just got rid of Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. There is lots of opportunity to be had there at the quarterback position. They don't have, like, maybe Will Howard could take over. Who knows? He says, with Quinn specifically, I'm having hope that we can have a Brock-type quarterback in the late round because Brock wasn't a big performer in college either.
Maybe, but I feel like Quinn should have been a big performer. Like, he was set up to be with those weapons and that offense. Like, he should have been way better.
He had Worthy, Adonai Mitchell. Like, come on. No, he was fine. He had all the weapons in the world.
Golden wide receiver 1 this year type of guy.
He still sucked. I hate Matthew Golden, but
I know. As a debate for another day. And then Rolla came in earlier. I think he was coming from like a real life perspective in terms of like Giants, Eagles killing it. I agree completely. The Eagles, the way they just like scoop up those towns, the top 13 guys falling to them at like 32. Just like how does that happen?
It's Howie, man.
Yeah, exactly. In Baltimore, the same way too. Like it's always what they do and they've done so well is they no longer have to draft for need. They just let the draft come to them because they've built up such a good stable. Both teams always focus on the trenches, which I love. And once you've got your trenches, then the skill can really flourish. And then you kind of can start just focusing on who is this best player that's fallen to me that shouldn't be, rather than, we really need that cornerback. We need that edge. No, it's whoever's the best on the board. Doesn't really matter because we've got a good 11 from top to bottom, both sides of the ball. Baltimore and Philly have been in that position for years, it seems. And they always kind of drafted that way too, talent over need. And it just kind of, again, built through the trenches, get there. They seem to kill it every single year. I agree. I would say, again, Philly was the winners of the draft. Real life wise, this is obviously more of a fantasy focus, Rolla. But we were talking winners and losers just from fantasy value for both dynasty and redraft. But yes, Baltimore, Philly, they killed it. I don't know if I agree about the Falcons necessarily. I like who they got with their first pick, but then that trade back into round 1, they gave up a first rounder next year to draft a position they had just drafted. Maybe it pans out for them. I thought it was a little bit redundant to give up that type of draft capital to then attack the same position twice. I don't know though. Maybe it will pan out for him because it is two talented, bookends at the edges if it works out. So, is there a team though as we head out that you give the highest like overall real life draft grade? Like, what did you think in terms of the winner of the draft? If you were given just a real,
he mentioned Ravens was a good. I thought their Mike. I was just going to say their Mike Green pick. So good. Yeah. I was wanting him to get taken at least in like the first round. Apparently, he has some like character issues. But I don't see how this guy, Mike Green, is not a stud, but he fits the AFC North exactly what they do. So, he was born to be a Raven, it feels like.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do got to get running, guys. And thank you so much. This is a great show. It's fun to chop it up with you today. And thank you for, about 300 of you here live with us, over 330 right now at the moment. So great. On your way out, if you hit that thumbs up button wherever you're at, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're watching from, those hearts and thumbs ups and all that, it really does go a long way to getting this out to more people. Like I said, I will be live again either tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning, with my updated redraft and best ball rankings. We'll just talk about who's the risers, fallers, both from a veterans, where do the rookies slide in from an annual perspective. I'll probably toss on a best ball draft. Best ball mania launches tomorrow, so we'll have to get a draft in soon. It's just always this time of the year. I always kind of go into a little bit of a hibernation until the draft hits. And then it's just like, all right, we're go time, baby. Let's go. So that is a fun show to kind of fire it back up and get the old juices going again. And definitely check out Ball Talk. Do you have a time that you kind of regularly go yet, Tanner?
I don't have a regular time yet,
Yeah.
but we're probably doing like nights usually during the week. But yeah, we might do like a Sunday stream like this. But really right now, this was just like a draft recap. Now we just have to wait until, I don't know, OTAs. We might talk about team builds in case anything comes out, about maybe Travis, what he might be doing on offense, stuff like that. So, as we get updated over the offseason, we will come back and update you guys. Yeah,
and I know you and CJay, boy Brendan, everybody, you're going to be doing some streams too, your rookie rankings and all that stuff. So, do toss your follow. Where can they find you, Tanner? What's your handle for it?
Handle is Smooth Sofa Show on Twitter. Should probably change that, but it's just OG. I'm never going to change it. But yeah,
we'll toss it in like the description or something, so people can find you.
Sure. I'll throw something in it. He said, Tanner, before you go, can you read my last comment? What are you guys' predictions on what the production for Colston, Loveland, and Tetairoa are going to be?
I'll let you take this one, Anthony, and then Tanner, and then Anthony. If you want me, I'm happy to take this. I just got to get.
No, you're good. Take it easy. You got to get out of here.
If you want to chat tomorrow, we'll be live. Anthony, I'll tweet out at Roto Street Wolf when I'm going live. I'd be happy to answer any more questions. But my man Tanner, hold down the fort, and cheers, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. And we will at rotostreetjournal.com, where you can find all this recap, and at Roto Street Journal on YouTube as well. Any follows, clicks, all that good stuff really helps out the channel. But thanks again, guys. Thanks, Tanner. We will be live again soon. See you.
All right, Anthony. As you said, what are you guys' predictions on what the production for Colston, Loveland, and Tetairoa are going to be for either standard or dynasty PPR? So, are you talking box score projection or fantasy projection? I assume it's fantasy, so I'm probably going to say for dynasty at least, Colston Loveland would probably come in around my tight end 3. So I'm very high on him. Like I said, Tetairoa is kind of a fade for me. Tetairoa might get more production right from the get-go, and that might be able to allow you to maybe sell high on him, which I would advise to do. But he's saying individual production and box score production. So there's a lot of mouths to feed in Chicago. So that's going to come into play for Loveland from the get-go at least. But once we kind of figure out what his role is going to be in Ben Johnson's offense, because also Cole Kmet is there too, we'll kind of figure that out. But right now, I'm saying that Colston Loveland's probably going to have a better receiving year just because he's got a better quarterback. He has a better offensive coordinator. So everything looks good for him. Warren, I'm definitely worried about. Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones don't necessarily entice me, and I believe the Colts are probably going to run a lot. So I would project Loveland to probably have a better season. But because Warren's older, you can't be so sure of that. Warren could be involved from the get-go because the Colts don't have as many weapons as the Bears do. So that's something to take into account. Hopefully that answers your question. I am going to get out of here. It was a pleasure talking to you guys today. I usually try and stream on weeknights. He says, is there any trade value if I want to get a Michael Myers? Because I just did a draft and guys offering me a 2nd-round pick and a 3rd next year. Take it. Take that. Now, I would take that. Michael Myers he was a very good tight end prospect, or was highly touted at least, but he's kind of fallen off. They drafted Bowers. I don't know if he's going to get traded. I don't think Michael Myers is really all that good. So if you can sell Michael Myers for that, I sold Michael Myers in a late 2nd for Keon Coleman. That's a trade that I did a few months ago. But yeah, Michael Myers, cool name. I would sell that in a heartbeat, easily. So that wraps it up for me today. That is Ball Talk on Roto Street Journal. And I will see you guys next time.